The executioner was not remembered for mercy. His name appears only once in the city's surviving ledgers, written in a cramped clerk's hand beside a column of payments, for services rendered, no surname, no honorific. Just a sum of coin issued regularly, reliably for nearly 30 years. Enough time to end hundreds of lives. In the medieval city, executions were public necessities. They were theater, warning, ritual cleansing. The executioner was both reviled and indispensable and touchable in the streets, yet summoned by the state whenever blood was required to remind the living of order. People did not look him in the eye. That, perhaps, was where it began. He lived alone at the edge of the city, in a narrow house pressed against the outer wall, close enough that the stone bled cold through the floors in winter. Children dared each other to knock on his door and run. Merchants pretended not to see him when he passed. Even priests spoke to him with eyes averted, as though sight itself might be contagious, yet the condemned always looked at him. Bound, kneeling, choking on prayers or curses, they searched his face in their final moments. Some pleaded, some raged. Some stared with an intensity that felt heavier than hands, heavier than chains. The executioner noticed this early on, long before the rumors. It was said that he performed his work cleanly, that his blade was sharp, that he did not prolong suffering unless ordered. These things were true. What the rumors failed to mention was how carefully he studied the condemned beforehand, not their crimes, not their confessions, but their eyes. He learned the differences. Fear clouded the eye, turning it dull and unfocused. Rage sharpened it, made it bright and fevered. The faithful held something else entirely, an inward gaze, already turning away from the world. The eyes changed at death. This was not superstition, it was observation. In the moment after the body stilled, before the crowd exhaled and turned away, the eyes fixed themselves. Whatever had animated them fled, leaving behind a final shape, a residue of intent, frozen like a footprint in cooling wax. Most executioners looked away at that moment. He did not. The first eye he took was an accident. A young man convicted of treason, barely more than a boy. When the blade fell, the executioner noticed that one eye remained open, staring upward, unblinking, catching the pale winter light. Something about it unsettled him, not the gore, not the violence, but the sense that the eye was still engaged, still looking. Later, as the body was prepared for burial, the executioner lingered. No one challenged him. No one ever did. With a small knife used usually for sharpening tools, he removed the eye. He expected revulsion. Instead, he felt relief. At home, he placed the eye in a small jar of oil used for treating leather. The fluid clouded at first, then cleared. The eye floated, intact, its surface glossy, reflecting candlelight. It did not rot. He began to experiment. Some eyes collapsed within days, turning milky and soft. Others endured. The difference, he realized, lay not in the method, but in the moment they were taken. Too late, and the eye lost its shape. Too soon, and it darkened. There was a precise interval of breath held between death and absence, when the eye could be preserved, when it could be kept. The rumors began slowly. People whispered that the executioner lingered too long after his work, that he requested the bodies be left with him, that animals avoided his house, that no birds nested near his roof. A midwife claimed she saw jars through his window, dozens of them, lined on shelves like offerings. She crossed herself and never spoke to him again. The executioner did not deny any of it. He did not confirm it either. He simply continued. Over the years, his collection grew, men and women. Old and young, criminals, heretics, political enemies. Each eye was different. Some reflected nothing but dull glass. Others seemed to catch light, even in darkness, their surfaces alive with a subtle depth that made looking away difficult. He arranged them carefully, not by date, not by crime, by gaze. Eyes that had pleaded were kept together. Eyes that had defied him sat on another shelf. The faithful were placed highest, where candle smoke drifted closest to the ceiling. He spent hours studying them, holding the jars up to the light, turning them slowly. Sometimes, only sometimes, he felt watched. Not by the living, by the dead. It became his private belief that the eyes retained something essential. Not souls, not consciousness, but attention. The final direction of a person's awareness, trapped and preserved. The dead continued to watch the living. And the living, he reasoned, deserved to be seen. When age bent his back and weakened his grip, the executioner prepared his legacy. He transferred the eyes from fragile jars into thicker glass vessels, sealed with wax and leather. When his hands shook too badly, he stopped adding to the collection. When he died, there was no ceremony. His house was emptied, his belongings sold. Most of what he owned was unremarkable. No one thought to dig beneath the floorboards, where a small cellar door lay hidden beneath a rotting rug. Centuries passed, the city changed names. Walls were torn down and rebuilt. The executioner's house was demolished, replaced by offices, then by a courthouse whose foundations cut deep into older stone. During renovations mandated repairs to crumbling supports, a worker's pick struck wood, not rotten. Not collapsed, locked. The box was rectangular, reinforced with iron bands, its surface darkened by age. No markings adorned it, no sigils, no names. It took effort to pry it open. Inside were dozens of glass vessels packed tightly together. And inside those eyes, human eyes, preserved, intact, floating in clear oil that had somehow resisted time. Their colors varied: brown, blue, gray, but all shared the same orientation. They faced upward. The workers recoiled. One dropped the lid and fled the chamber. Another crossed himself repeatedly, whispering prayers. The foreman ordered the box sealed and removed to a secure room. Scholars were summoned, historians, clergy. No record explained the collection. The eyes could not be dated precisely, but their condition suggested careful preservation far beyond common practice. No known religious tradition accounted for it. No documented punishment involved such trophies. And yet, when left alone in a lit room, observers reported a sensation difficult to articulate. A pressure behind the eyes. A feeling of being assessed, measured. One archivist claimed that, after hours cataloging the vessels, she dreamed of standing in a crowd, unable to move, while unseen figures watched her from every direction. Another swore the eyes shifted when no one was looking. There were no official findings. The box was quietly reburied beneath reinforced stone. The renovation plans were altered. Records were sealed under preservation statutes. The courthouse reopened on schedule, but guards working late shifts sometimes report discomfort in the lower levels and urge to turn around. A feeling that something is behind them, watching, patient, and unblinking. They never go down alone. Some things, the city decided, do not need to see the light again. And some eyes, once opened at the moment of death, never truly close.